Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. Those of you who haven't seen any of my videos before, my name's Chloe Hibbard and I'm a pet portrait and wildlife artist and art tutor. I do have other videos on here. It's a fairly new channel. I only started it about 6 months ago. So my other videos that I've got on here are Ollie the Otter, which seem to go down really well. So today I thought I would bring you my latest drawing, which is Betsy. Now, I started Betsy from freehand and went right the way from the blank page through to the finished product with you. I've shown you everything, warts and all, mistakes that I've made, colour choices, all that sort of thing. Everything's in there. So I hope that you'll find it a really informative video for you. This time I managed to put the reference photo actually in the video, which I was rather chuffed with myself about. So I've done that. So you've got the reference photo as you go along, but in the comments I've also put a link to the reference photo as well. So if you want to follow along and do your own Betsy, then you can download the reference photo, which will help you do that. If you're a complete beginner, this is an ideal course for you. But if you're a complete beginner, you might want to start with an outline first. Ollie the Otter, my previous tutorial, shows you how to put an outline onto your pastel mat. So you can always follow that same process and then join me back with Betsy afterwards. All the reference materials that I've used are all in the comments below. But please do not panic if you don't have the right pencils. I know that you might kind of think, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to get the same result. You absolutely will. If you have one full set of pastel pencils of any sort, really, you're going to be able to get a Betsy out of it, because there's generally going to be dark greys, there's going to be a bright red, there's going to be oranges. And I do try as I go along to sort of say, this is a really dark brown, you can just use any dark brown, this is a mid grey, and so on. So please don't feel you have to buy absolutely everything, because I know it's like when you're setting out, it is very expensive. So, but however, if you want to know, just out of interest, all the materials that I've used, they're all links below, and you can have a look at that, as well as obviously the a link to the reference photo as well, which you can download. If any of you do end up doing Betsy and you'd like to send her to me, that would be lovely. I'd love to see more Betsy's in the world. Would love to see it, but obviously you don't have to either. So just enjoy her. She's great for beginners, but equally she's great to kind of sharpen your skills. There's I kind of set out thinking she was going to be completely beginners, but I do have to say some of those spindles had me a little bit foxed at times. So that's fun. You can watch me kind of navigate my way through that. Hope you enjoy it, and yeah, any comments, please pop them down below. And this is a new channel, so I'd be super grateful if you do enjoy my videos, if you could subscribe to my channel, because obviously that'll help me get my finger out and I'll do some more videos for you. So it's goodbye from me and Betsy for now, and look forward to seeing you on the next one, and hope you enjoy this. Take care. Right, hello, welcome everybody to Betsy, the Betsy tutorial. So I try and do things a little bit differently each time that I'm doing a tutorial. So sometimes we'll do a sort of where we use tracing paper, transfer paper. I'd like to do one where I'm doing gridding. But today I thought we'd have a go at freehanding Betsy. So the first thing that I do when I'm freehanding is find something, particularly for me, it'll be the pupil of an eye. Find something and get it the shape that you want it. So let's say that her pupil is going to be about that sort of shape. Okay, so we're going to colour it in. So this is just it's just a black pencil, the Faber-Castell 199. Okay, so that's the sort of size that we're doing. So I've got my iPad to the right of it, and I'm just going to try and do it to sort of roughly the same size. It's not going to be exact, but so it gives me sort of a reference point. Okay, so once we've got the pupil in place, we then look at what is around it. So actually, let's just zoom you in on this section. Oops. Okay, so then I'm going to be looking at the distance between the pupil and the bit just above it. So that, obviously the top of her eye, and working out roughly that space. Okay, so and then it kind of comes down here, and then like here. and then round. Okay, so now I'm looking from the pupil to this side. I think I just needed to just sort of bring that around there. And it does, you know, we're doing wildlife at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter, you know, as much as it would a pet portrait. I'm not going to lie, with a pet portrait, when I'm on a commission, I will obviously make sure that I've got a decent outline to start with, because a millimetre wrong either way will make quite a big difference to the look of the animal. So you want to make sure you've got a good outline for that sort of thing. But this will really help your drawing skills if you can just practice a little bit of freehand. Okay, so what I've done so far, now I think that pupil's too big for what's around it. So, but I'm okay with that, because you know, this is pastel matte at the end of the day. I can lower this bit here, and I can always put some blue around and sort of mix it in. Okay, so we go through here. And we've got a bit of a shadow that's going on here, so let's pop that in. So that's sort of in a direct line from here down to here. Okay, so now let's look at the bottom of the, so that's the sort of, we're saying that that's the bottom of the eye. And then we've got the wrinkle, which is here. You can always change this. In hindsight, probably would be better if I'd done it in a grey. Let's do that. Let's help ourselves out. It's easier to sort of cover over, perhaps. I don't know though, actually, because I do want, this is actually quite nice and dark. We'll have both in our hands. Okay, so this section here comes along and then down there. And then that sort of comes up to there. Let's get with the grey. Let's get the sort of like the little light bit that's in this corner here. This is just all we're doing, is we're creating a little map for ourselves of where everything goes roughly. And at the end of the day, as I always say, she's our Betsy. She's nobody else's. If her eye's slightly bigger, let it be slightly bigger. This is just a way for you to learn how to freehand and how to create lovely, oh, hopefully lovely animal portraits. Okay. Right, so we have a bit of an eye going on there. Now then, this bit here is quite dark, so I'm not going to go super dark yet with this. I'm just plotting it in, and this is the underneath bit. I'd say that the eye is the most important of all, so yeah, spend a bit more time getting it as good as you can. And then we've got another sort of line under here. You know what, for the moment, let's just colour that all in black, just so we're getting a general feel. Now the corner of the eye comes out here, doesn't it? So let's do this in here. This bit's all under shadow. I'm not going to worry too much about that at the moment. Okay, so this is the top notch here. I don't think I'm going to do that just yet. I think what I'm going to do is just keep it really easy on myself. So I've worked this eye. I think that looks roughly about right. And then coming up from the eye about that much is this little white bit of the face. And then let's do, and I'm doing this lightly, and I am doing this in grey, obviously, because it is a lighter colour. Let's have a look. If I go a bit quiet. Okay, so this bit that I've done down here is in, it should be along a little bit actually. In here, because it'll put everything else out otherwise. So what I'm just going to do is just kind of get that out the way with a bit of grey, just so that I know that that was a mistake. Okay, and then so down from here, so because the reason I knew that was I was looking at the pupil. This is what's called measured drawing. So I was looking at the pupil, and I was looking directly beneath it, and I'd got the triangle over here, whereas actually the triangle should have been there. Okay, immediately down from that sort of like little triangle that you can see, it goes like that, and then you're just going to have to take a deep breath at this stage and look at the shape, and I think that's about right. Okay, Now if that goes like that and it sort of comes across here more actually, it's not as stark as that. And in which case, is that too big? I think it might come to about there. Let's go for about there. So we've made a sort of a line that doesn't potentially exist, but that's okay. That's why we're working gently. So now I'm going to look at the red bit. So if we're saying that that's the top of the white bit there, it's kind of, you can always use your finger and thumb as well. I mean, the only problem with doing that, yeah, it's quite a bit higher, but the only problem with doing that is you don't know that your iPad's sort of correct, and if you just nudge it a little bit, it's the, you know, it can change distortion. So just try and do it by eye, knowing that you can fiddle with it until you get it about right. There's a little dip there, isn't there? Okay. Okay, so I think that's roughly right. And then I might let's have a look. I am going to plot the black bit in. I'm going to use the grey initially because I'm not 100% sure that this is correct at the moment. So I'm just going to lightly pop it in, and then once we've done more of it, we'll hopefully have a better idea of whether or not this was correct. Okay, top notch, love her top notch. I don't know that that's what it's called, but that's what it looks like to me. Okay, so from the eye, actually let's do this bit here, and then it sort of comes there. And then from the top of the red bit here, it sort of comes up in that direction. These are all little things you can tweak. And if you end up making a mark on the background, you're just going to have to put background in, aren't you? Yeah, let's try not to worry about it too much. I know it's easier said than done, because we all get very precious about our art, myself included. Okay. So I think the actual top notch goes to about there, and then I think the shadow from the top notch probably comes to about there. Does that look about right? I don't think it's far off. We can always fluff it out a bit if necessary. Okay, let's move you across. Let's have a look now. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is obviously I've got a big piece of pastel mat here. Make sure that you've got plenty of space around you when you're freehanding, because otherwise you're going to end up going off the page, as I probably might here. Let's have a look at it. I should be okay. It's not going to be perfect, but it should be okay. Right, let's get her back. Just moved it again and changed the size. It's the trouble with a touch screen. Okay, it's just so that I can kind of visualise where it's going to go. Right, let's have a look. So here, there's a, it sort of comes down here. And by all means, just do an outline for Betsy. You know, particularly if you're just beginning. If you're interested in learning on how to freehand, that's great. Give it a go. But there really is no harm in just getting an outline down. It will save you hours. You know, the real art comes from what you put in the middle, not this bit anyway. This is just a technical side. Right, okay, let's have a look. And so now I'm looking at where I've got the cheek there, I'm looking at the distance between there and where it finishes. So her under cheek sort of finishes under there. And then it kind of comes down here. Okay. She's looking quite beaky, so that's good. Now then, let's find out where her mouth is, because that's actually quite an important part of her expression. So I might just do the highlight just above where the mouth is, because there's a little highlight, isn't there? And then there's So then you know that the bit in between those two marks that I've just made, let's get you close in again. So you know this bit here, it's roughly, that's roughly the line in there, isn't it? Okay. And then so maybe in here, I think possibly this line is a bit higher, is it? Okay, looks like a beak to me. Right, so there's a little dip that we did just there. I'm just going to do it lightly in case it's wrong. I think that's about right. So from this dip, going down here is where this lovely big nostril is. Okay. And then this is like a little shaded area, so I'm going back over, and then I think that's probably correct there as the line. Let's commit to it. Okay, don't want there to be too much of a hump there. Let's narrow it down a little bit. Can always add a little bit, it's easier than taking it away, and then it sort of comes down here a bit. Okay. The other thing we can do is just use a little bit of putty eraser if we think. Actually, you know, I think I'm correct there. Anyway, I was just going to get rid of it, but I think actually the length of her beak is quite nice. Then it sort of comes over and then it comes like that. I think we'll keep that. And then it's a bit darker underneath. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much more about that because that comes down to what we do when we're actually starting the drawing itself. This comes here. Okay, and I think that comes, this is the dark bit, just in a bit from how I had it. And then I'm not going to worry about her hairpin piece just at the moment because don't need to. So let's have a look there. And right, so let's work on this underneath bit. So this kind of comes here. Distance between there and there is roughly correct. Now we also know that that's possibly correct along here. And if you come down, there's a little sort of V shape in there, and there's like that little bit of shadow that comes in here. So the red we know goes all the way up the neck, but it goes into shadow. Okay, so if this, I do think we need a bit more bend in the neck there. So let's go for a bit more bend, that looks better. So if that's bending, and if that's correct, and that's coming down to the triangle there, then the red piece sort of starts around here and kind of comes up like that and then round. Okay, that's looking all right. And then we're coming down. I'm not sure how far down I'm going to go. And then it sort of comes down, and then we have a swoop of her neck there. Okay. I think we might end up finishing the drawing. Oh, that would help, wouldn't it, if you saw it? Okay, so I think we're going to sort of finish, you know, for now I think we're going to finish the outline off to here. But I just want to show there's a real sort of bend. She really kind of, lovely belly there, really sort of bends out, and we want to get this really quite nice and sort of sticking out a bit. Don't want it too skinny. And this part here, that's all the red part, kind of comes around there. Okay, just having a look at it, looking at all my different reference points. Okay, I think we have an outline, so that's a free-handed outline. We'll be changing things, and we'll be, you know, just like we would if we'd just taken this as an ordinary outline. To start with, this would be the sort of outline that I'd be looking for anyway. And we'll be adjusting it as we go on. But I think that's okay for now. We will tweak it in a bit. I've just noticed something there. Right, there we go. Okay, let's get cracking with the drawing. Okay, so first things first, let's do her little eye. Now, the eye obviously is blue. The first thing I'm going to do is do a much darker blue than the blue that we can actually see right at the moment. So when you're looking at blues, use any blue really. You can just experiment with this. We're just having fun today. This is a mid-range blue. It's the Carbothello 430. And I'm just doing a light application of it, just while I get a sort of a bit of a feel for her eye. Okay, now she's got a bit of a sort of a starey expression. I think that just comes down there a little bit. Just sort of tweaking my outline at this stage. Okay, and then I think that kind of comes a little bit closer. Let's have a look. Okay, so all I've done is just put a very light layer of a mid blue of some sort. You know, you can make it, we're going to be lightening it up, so just choose any sort of mid-range blue, something to give it a bit of pop. I do on the base layer. You know, you could even use something like this. This is the 140 from Faber-Castell. You know, it's a bit, that's like a mid-range blue. That gives it even more sort of vibrancy. Okay, it looks a little bit more vibrant actually in the video than it does in real life. Let's see if I can alter that. Okay, that's a bit more as it is. Right, so we've got a nice basic pupil there. I am just going to just take away a little bit of the pupil at the bottom here, because she's sort of looking up, and that does add to the expression of the piece. So I'm just going to make the pupil here. Okay, it just gives a slightly nicer expression, does it? We might bring it down again a little bit. Tell you what, let's just make it smaller. How about that? Okay, we can always add to it. We can always tweak it. Once you've got all the ingredients in around, you'll be able to see it much, much better. Okay, so just above, well, because I've got the blue in my hand and not for any other reason, I can just see that there's a nice little sort of light bit just above her eye. Give her a bit of blue eyeshadow. Why not? Now I'm going to start coming into her eye with a little bit more finesse. Let's have a look. So obviously pastel mat is great in the sense that you can just do lots and lots of layers. So, you know, if you've got it wrong, you can tweak it. Just keep your hand light. There are times when you need to be a bit more heavy-handed, so that's fine too. Pop those in there. Pop that in there. Let's get some in here. Let's get our little shady triangle-y bit. And then it's really quite dark here, isn't it? I'm just colouring in at the moment. And that's what you need to tell yourself when you're working, you know, don't be too precious. Obviously we need to be delicate, but if you have so much anxiety when you're working on a piece, you know, it can hamper your efforts to sort of be a bit more creative. Okay, so I think that's sort of all roughly in position now. So I am going to use, I'm going to use a cotton bud. I'm going to go and get one. And we're just going to press in what we've got, just so it kind of sits into the grooves of the pastel mat. Okay, so a little paper stemmed cotton bud. Try not to go over your black. So I'm just pushing the blues in. I mean your pupil. I'm not so worried about going over the lines around here because we're going to be creating more, but we do want that pupil to be super black. Once we know it's in the right place, we do anyway. Okay, and I'm just going to, while I've got a little bit of black in my hand, I'm actually just going to create that little bit of shade over the top of her eye. And she'll start coming to life a little bit more. Okay, so you can see by just how blending those few colours there, how it suddenly starts to sort of go from what looks like a kid's drawing to something that looks a bit more sophisticated. Right, so the next black I'm going to use now is the Cretacolor Black Chalk 46012. Let me show it to you. Okay, that's a really nice pencil to buy. It's, I'll leave the link in the comments, but it really is super black. You can see how much blacker that is than everything else. So, and then we know that this section here is really dark. The shading that's immediately in this part of her eye does add a huge amount to her sort of expression. And we know we've really got quite a deep and dark bit above her eye there. And here. We know that this triangle, hopefully it's correct because we're going in. We are committing. And then we just do that. Okay, so that's just really got some punch now that we didn't have before. So talking of punch, there's various ways that you can do this sort of top notch. Shall I do that next? Actually, I might carry on with the eye. Ignore that for a minute. But basically, what I was talking about is obviously this lovely pencil that we've got here, because I had it in my hand, I was naturally wanting to get this really dark in here because this has to be super, super dark. So we can either use that pencil when it comes to it, or we can use soft pastel. But I'm going to finish the eye first. I do that, I sort of dot around all over the place, whatever takes my fancy next, but obviously it's a bit more helpful if I do bit by bit, I think. Okay. Right, so now let's have a look inside her eye. So we've got just like a basic layer of blue, and we've smudged a little bit of dark just at the top to create a bit of a shadow. Paynes Grey is going to be quite nice in her eye. That's sort of, you know, to create some of the shadows in her eye. So that's the 181 that we've got with Faber-Castell. Just in here. Let's sort of just create, we can always go lighter again if we need to. We've still got plenty of pastel mat left. Now the shading that she's got goes right down there, and you know, I might I might do that, I might not. Obviously you've got to bear in mind we're not just doing a replica of this photograph. We do actually want to create a nice piece of art. So, you know, you take a few liberties, that's fine. That's what we do. So I'm just looking, I've only got a small amount of pencils here, and I'm literally, because I wanted this to be a bit of a beginner's tutorial, or, you know, obviously hopefully helping with freehanding as well. I don't want to be too precious about the pencils that I use, other than using that really dark pencil, because I think that is going to really, really help you. I'm now opting for a light grey, but it's got a lot of blue in it. It's the 722 from Stabilo Carbothello. You've got lots of lovely bluey cold greys in the Faber-Castell range. Any kind of soft pastel set that you get will have either a very light bluey grey or a light blue. So use those and play with it. You know, I've just picked this up. Doesn't mean it's the right colour, but you know, it's just it's doing the job. Okay, so we're just creating a little bit of light with that. And we've actually got a tiny little reflection just in there. Okay. And then now I've gone in with that grey. Might just pep it up a little bit with a little bit of blue in between. Now I think we need to just sort of darken up this internal bit here. So that was just using the mid-range blue that I've got, but I think I'm going to go into my Paynes Grey. Paynes Grey is obviously quite dark. So this is the 181 from Faber-Castell. Just going to create a little bit of shadow there, which would be, it would be normal that there would be a bit of shadow there, because it's the inside of the eye. Okay, so that's just kind of, you want the eye to look spherical. So you want to make sure that you've got your lights where that it should be light, your mid-range where it should be mid-range, and your dark where it should be dark. I think the shape of her eye actually is a bit more like that. And I've done a really sort of big dark bit in here, but actually there's a tiny bit of skin, it's still the eyeball. So I'm just going to pop a tiny bit of pink in. Any pink, any light pink that you've got. You're going over the black. Well, I mean, if you've done it exactly like me, you're going over the black. If you've not made that sort of mistake like I have, then you can just put some pink in and then darken it back down with the black. It's because I've zoomed into the reference and I can see that that sort of area was all sort of pinky. And you can do a bit more pink if you want to. Okay. So I'm going to pick this nice light Carbothello, the 722, up again. And obviously we had the highlight here, which we put in initially in white. But I am going to dot it back in with this blue, so it's all sort of nice and harmonising. Got a couple of little dotty bits there as well. Okay. Now I think actually we need to come up a little bit here. Yeah, that's a bit better. One thing I would say is that all the skin, going back onto my black now, this is the Faber-Castell, they're just the ordinary black 199. The skin around any animal's eyes is actually really incredibly important to the overall expression. So, you know, do pay attention to that. And that's great because it means you can tweak it as well. So if you, you know, find that you want to sort of make her have slightly different look, then you can sort of tweak some of the little wrinkly bits around the eyes to sort of create a slightly different expression. So I'm just, obviously we used Paynes Grey before, but I had a black in my hand and I'm fiddling really. I'm just creating a few little details. We're not going to worry too much about it. I want this to be hopefully beginner friendly. Okay. And where's our white? So they're usually right at the bottom of my pot because I use them so much. So they're tiny normally. Okay, now let's just go for a few peak highlights. So let's do one there. Let's do a tiny little one there. It will just give it a bit of life. And if it's too much, we can knock it back and pop it in. Let's see how that looks. So that's a bit too much. That's okay. Let's get our little cotton bud. Let's leave, I want to leave that one there, I think. I think that's possibly a bit too much as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think it's going to be too light here. So let's knock this right back. We had some darks going on around there, so let's bring those darks down a bit. That's a bit better. Okay. What else should we put in there? So we've done our blues. I do want to just, we've made this a bit milky, so I do want to get her pupil back again. So I'm just going over it with that super punchy black. What other colour should we put in there? Done some greys. Got a nice grey here. It's a 270. It's a bit of a warmer grey. This is Faber-Castell. It's the one that we used. I say we did. It's one I used for the outline. So by going over the blue, just sort of toning it down a little bit. Okay. That's helped a bit. And we just got, while we've got it in our hand, let's do some of the little light sections. Got some nice little wrinkles there. I'm not going to go too detailed today. We're going to go fairly detailed, but you know, I don't want it to put you off the joy of creating something like this, because it doesn't have to be super detailed to look detailed, if that makes sense. Right, we've got some wrinkles there. So I've just created a little base layer with my black, and then I'm going to go back over with the grey. And I'm not going to worry too much more about those just for now. Okay, let's just kind of soften that sort of area. Right, let's get the top notch in. Let's get loads of really dark, rich black in that top bit. Right, so I have a soft pastel here. I'm pretty sure this is either Sanilia or Schminky. Unfortunately, it's rubbed off. But I'm pretty sure that it's actually the Schminky Serious Black. But anything that's really dark, that's the main thing. We're being brave now. Let's just get this, punch this in. Try not to go too near the edge. Let's just get the middle section done, because it can get everywhere. Okay, so we'll just put that to one side. We'll probably need it again in a minute. Now then, let's start scrubbing it in with the little cotton bud. So the key here is we want it super punchy. You know, the darker the better. This is fun. I enjoy using these to scrub it in. Okay, so we can see how nice and punchy that is. So we might need to go over that again at some stage. But for now, I think we'll just get the rest of everything. Let's just bring some of that black that's sitting under here. I don't know quite what I'm doing with that shadow just at the moment, so I'm going to forget about it for the moment. So the next thing that I'm going to do is we use this lovely blue in her eyes. Why not? Let's use a couple of little bits just at the top. So don't go mad here. Don't put loads in. Keep the amount that you do quite sort of sparse, because we do want to keep it nice and dark. But all we're doing is just a tiny little suggestion that it's furry hair here. There are fairy bits going on. And there's a tiny little sort of lighter bit in there. I don't know what that is. Whether it's just light reflections or tiny little light bits of hair. Okay, so that was just using the blue. I'm not going to do too much more than that at the moment because I do just want to get everything in so that we can start to assess it a bit more. So I'm just using my ordinary black now, any black, just creating the little hairs that sit over the outline that we've created. Okay. And then it sort of comes here, then comes out. And it just have the it just has the ability to sort of make it look sort of fat and fluffy, which is what we want. Might need to go over them a couple of times. So obviously we've got a lot of pastel in the middle, but not quite so much here. And what you can do is sort of then pick little bits of the pastel that you've got from the middle and sort of ease it out. You just want to be careful because you don't want to get black on the background. As I say, if you mess up the background or your hand puts a load of black on the background, you're just going to have to do a background, aren't you? Either use a lot of putty rubber, which might get most of it off, or you have to commit to a background. Okay, so that's looking quite fluffy. I quite like that. Should we get some red in? So just like with the top bit, you can use a soft pastel red, which would be quite nice here because it would be quite nice and vibrant. However, it is only a small section, so we're just going to see if we can get it in without. See if we need the punchiness. So this red is the 310 from Sepia Carbothello. I've got limited pencils with me today, which I've done deliberately. I tell you what, let's try a soft pastel. So I've got a box of soft pastels here. It's like opening a box of sweeties. Got some, like to go for one that's sort of slightly orangey. Just be really gentle. There we go. So it's just giving it a bit of vividness. Okay, so now that we've layered the red in, we just want to obviously really get it into the pastel mat. And we'll let it bleed out a little bit. I don't mind if a little bit comes into this cheek area because the cheek area is actually quite pink. So we'll be adding some white in there as well. Just really want to sort of push it in so it's all, I know that there are lots of different sort of shades and different things going on in here, but at the moment what we need to concentrate on is getting a nice vibrant red. It's all good. Okay, so we've got a bit of a gap here between the red and what we put in for the black. So let's just fill that in. Either black would do really, but I've used the punchy one. And while I've got it there, I'm just going to do this little bit of black that's immediately opposite it because it'll really add some punch actually. It helps sort of by giving it a bit of an outline. And of course we're going to be doing her little hairs as well. Not going to worry about them for the minute. Okay, and then we decided, what did we decide? I think it was all of this was dark. I'm not going to go too far down. Let's just concentrate on one thing at a time. See, I'm going off on a tangent again. Okay, so I might just use the red pencil because I think this here sits above, obviously, the black. We want it to look like the black is sitting behind it. So let's just get that in there, make sure that that's nice, and then we've got some little sort of flicky bits from the black over there. But I do want it to look really quite red in this bit. Okay, so we've got a little bit of shading going on. I think Paynes Grey would probably be quite a nice colour to use here. So there's a tiny little, there's obviously a bit of sort of bone structure here. There's just like a little line there. So I'm creating it with the Paynes Grey, but then I'm going to sort of mix it back in again with the red. So we're just showing like a little hint of a tiny bit of shading there. I'm just going to pop some in as well. I'm still not sure whether or not I want those. Do I want these? The little the shadows, obviously, from the hairs. Maybe they might look quite nice. We will see. So this sort of shading bit comes here, and then there's a little bit above there. You know, if we get it wrong, we can always kind of go in with another healthy dose of red with the soft pastel. So again, I've created it with the shadow with the Paynes Grey, but I'm going back over again with the red pencil, so it looks like it sort of all belongs. It looks more natural, it sort of sinks in. Just change the lighting a bit because it looks quite orange actually on screen, but it's not. It's actually quite red. We will be putting some oranges in. So I've got an orange pencil here. Again, don't stress about which orange you use. Any bright orange will do. This is the Derwent Pastel Spectrum Orange. Just going to pop some above here. So this is obviously where the light is hitting it. So you've got lights, you've got shadows, you've got stuff going on. So this is where we need to sort of start making a little bit of difference. So I'm just going to pop a little bit here. I'm going to have to pop some white in as well to sort of create a little bit of light there. But I just want a little bit of orange just in certain places. So you've got some under here. We've got some at the top here. Just creates a little bit of difference. Okay, now let's go in with some white and then we'll mix it in a little bit with what's sitting there. So we'll do a couple of little dots there, a couple of little dots here. We've got, this is the line here. Let's, a couple of little dots there. Now then, where do we... So that was just because I wanted to make sure that red was sitting outside of everything else. So I popped the white just to make sure, but then I do obviously want it to be red as well. But equally, although it's red, it's hitting the light, it's got bits of orange in. So I'm constantly tweaking, you know, a little bit of red, a little bit of white, a little bit of orange, until you just get that moment when you sort of think, ah, yeah, that's right. Okay, so that is the red in for that top bit. Let's just have a look, see what else we've got in our pot of goodies here. Let's try a little yellow ochre. 690 Stabilo Carbothello, but literally any like sort of warm yellow. Just to do a couple of little flecks. A couple of little sort of flecks in here, just going over the sort of top of the shadow there. that in, a bit in there. Just adds a bit of interest as well, apart from anything else. You know, if you only have one colour, sometimes it can look effective, obviously, but I do think it just adds a bit of interest the more different colours you put in. So we've got some little dark hairs going over here, which I kind of got rid of, but then realised that I actually probably do need them. So let's bring them back in a little bit. Okay, now let's get, I'm just going to use a white pastel. Let's just get the cheek in. Yeah, it's just any white. You could use your pencil for this. All you're looking to do is just giving it a nice light covering. Really nice, bright light. Let's just try and get there. Okay, let's bring that up a bit. And see, that's quite satisfying, having that sitting on there and knowing that you've got the job of mixing it all in. It's very mindful. So I know it's pink, I know there are red bits in it, but I'm doing a layer of white because that's the overriding sort of brightness of it. You know, if something's really vibrant, I want nice red. You know, if something's really dark, I want that really nice dark black. This is very light, so because the pastel mat that I'm using, if I was using a lighter colour pastel mat, my choice would be different, but because this is dark, we need to get it light again. I've not put soft pastel above the eye because you know, you're in danger of getting it everywhere really. Don't care that a bit of red's just gone on my little cotton bud. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm just using a white pencil now, just to get this, you know, so you could have done this all the way, you know, if you don't have soft pastels. Very often I don't actually use soft pastels in my work, so if you're looking at this and thinking, oh, I need to buy soft pastels, you really don't. You can use, you know, pastel pencils. But sometimes they're quite nice for vibrancy and so on. But yeah, certainly near the lines I'm going to be using a pencil more than anything else. Okay, right, so now let's give that a little scrub. I'll use a fresh one here because it has less, it's not very pinky. I do talk really quietly when I'm doing something a bit more delicate. Okay, so that is a good base layer for Betsy's cheek. So now let's have a look at the cheek. Let's see what's going on there, what we want to do. So obviously this lower section here is in shade. We've also got some little markings. We've got some little sort of pock markings in there. I think maybe Paynes Grey is a bit strong. Go over this again. I'm just feeling like it just needs a bit more red in there, just to sort of blend it in a little bit. Okay, what should we do? Let's have a look. So we want to get these little sort of pock marks in. Just going to do tiny little dots, and this I'm just using any grey. I've literally just picked it out. 726. You could use, actually I don't know whether there's a 192 here which might do. Perhaps like a dark red. All you're trying to do is getting a sort of a darker colour. So you can use grey and then go over it with a red, or you can use a sort of a ready-made red, or sort of a 192 is a sort of a dark red. we can do this now, and then we'll have to go over it with that sort of bright red again as well. So just creating some of the little markings. It's not quite the right colour. I do have all the pastel pencils under the sun, but I'm away at the moment and they're all wrapped up, and I just thought it'd be quite fun to do something a little bit more carefree, where we just use what I had in the pot, to hopefully show you that, you know, it really doesn't, you don't need to sort of obsess over having this pencil and that pencil, apart from a couple of pencils, as I say, you know, having the really dark. But, you know, if you didn't have that really dark, you know, sort of Creta colour pencil, so I will put the link in the comments. But if you don't have it, you can use just the soft pastel that we use for the top there. You just have to be very careful with it. You know, and there are some other dark pencils as well. So yeah, don't worry about it. This is a chilled Betsy. I'm just doing little dots. I know I'm going to be going over these, so I'm not worried. I'm just literally, so I think this is, I don't want to do too much of the reflections. I don't know, I'm in two minds as to whether or not I want the reflection. Oh, that was the wrong place, wasn't it? That was sort of there. And then there was another one there. We'll see. We'll be going over it again in white in a minute, but yeah, just creating lots of little marks. Obviously, the more it goes into shade, the more you can see the tiny little marks. As it comes up here, it gets really bright. So we're going to be wanting in that area to get a really nice sort of bright light in there. Getting this as really super bright. It is important to always look at things and look to see, you know, what's my brightest area? Where's the sun hitting? You know, we could go really technical with it and so on, but that is the basic, I think, of art is, you know, what's hitting the light first? What's the lightest? What's the darkest? Okay. Ooh, see a couple of little debris there. And you'll find you do this, as you know, you'll suddenly see something in the other bits that you're doing, and will make you want to go and sort them out. So back to my 192, just doing a couple of little dotty bits. Getting a bit lighter as I got there. I'm sort of pressing less hard. I'm not going to go right up to the top either. There's a little sort of shady bit under here, just tiny little shady bit. And then in here. Okay. So this part here, where are we? I'm going to use just a little bit of shading here, and on its side I'm just using any blue. This is the 726, just to create a little bit of shade. I could be wrong, might not be the right thing to do. Let's just have a look and play with it. I'm going to use the cotton bud that had a little bit of red on it already. And I'm doing this because I know I can get some whites on top. You know, obviously if you're working in different mediums, you have to sort of factor in whether or not you've got this luxury of sort of working, you know, dark to light. And I don't really work dark to light, I sort of work light to dark in parts, dark to light, you know, just kind of depends on the section. In light sections, you do want to be getting your lights in first, because you want them to be nice and bright. So can you see how we've done those little dots, but we've just then by the time we've sort of pressed them in,
they kind of disappeared and start to look a little bit more natural. I think her cheek comes out a bit more here. Let's make her a bit more cheeky. Let's do... Okie dokie. So we're just going to... Right, okay, that's looking a bit better. So we do need some more little lights. So I'm going to use, just using the Faber-Castell white, a really nice light actually, if you want to splash out. The Caran d'Ache, Caran d'Ache pastel pencil. It's really got lots of pigment in it, and so if you're looking for sort of like a super bright white, I mean the Faber-Castell is absolutely fine, but you know, you can pop this in. Again, you know, a soft pastel is always going to have a little bit more punch and vibrancy than a pastel pencil, but you could, you know, depending on the pastel pencil, obviously. But yeah, so you can use that. But I'm going to go back to my Faber-Castell one. It's not too much difference, to be fair. I'm just making some little marks. So I've just sharpened it. I'm just going to do some nice little dotty bits now, because the sort of like the dotty light bits make the dotty dark bits stand out, if that makes sense. Just creating lots of different texture and just randomly going all over it. Oh, Betsy. So I'm just going over this section to really beef it up. You know, we've got all of that nice light in there, and I'm just building on it because this is where the sun is hitting. It's where the sun's hitting the hardest, there and in here. So this is where we need it to be nice and light. Okay, I'm just going to, again, I just see little things. So that dot just looked a little bit weird on its own. So I'm just going to create some other little sort of lights around it. That makes it look a bit more natural, doesn't it? Okay. I'm creating these here. Do have that really nice rich red that we've got to pop back in here. So let's just and underneath here. It's just these little markings that I'm doing at the moment. The other colour you can use, say for instance, if you've got a full set of Stabilo Carbon Fellows, I do actually quite like this colour. It is the 642. It's just a nice colour. It's not even, I can't even explain it. It's just a nice colour. I think it's just that I'm attracted to it. It's actually a similar colour to what I've already been putting in there by using the 192 and then going over it with the white, which is quite interesting, but I just like it. Okay. I'm going to have a think about those shadows. I might not stick them in. I'm going to go over the reds with this. I was going to come up for a reason why I'm doing that, but I just feel like it. I think it just creates quite a nice colour. Okay, and then let's do some little top highlights. Might mean that we need to sort of go over with a few little darks here and there. We'll see. I don't want to do everything perfectly now. I want to get the rest of her in, or the rest of her that we're doing in. And then we sort of start to sort of look at it and tweak things and so on. Okay. We do need a little bit of shading in here, so I'm going to just pick this is actually a dark sepia, but you can just use like a dark brown, dark grey, anything like that, just to sort of create a few more little marks under here, just a little bit more difference. Just under here, and it is darker under here because obviously you have to look at this as a spherical shape. It's not all completely flat. You know, this part of the cheek downwards curves underneath her. So we're just going to pop a few of these in. And then dabbing it in because it was a bit stark. But by dabbing it in, it's going to be mixing with the other colours that you've got going on there, and it will naturally just create a little bit of shade at the bottom of her cheek there. And then just going to get a couple more little lights in here. Biggest tip I can give is to play with it and enjoy it, and don't put any pressure on yourself. Again, the lighter we can make certain sections, the darker other sections will look. So just a couple of little areas here. I can see where the sun's hitting it. So although this is in shade, it still does have little lighter bits. So I'm just going to put that in. I'm not worried too much about her markings there. You know, we'll see if we want to make them more precise later. That's what we do in the tweaking stage. There's always a good day's worth of tweaking with any artwork, really. Well, not the whole day, but you know, need to leave it a day and then come back to it. Okay. Just dabbing it in. I'm being quite light when I'm dabbing it in. I'm not really... Initially, I can kind of really scrub the pastel mat in, which is very satisfying. But when you've done several layers like I have here, you do actually need to just sort of dot it in a bit because you don't want to lose all your sort of hard work. Right, so there's something niggling at me here. There's a line here that I've done. I just want to add a bit more. This is the 175, but just a dark brown, dark grey. Just comes up a bit there. That's a bit better. Okay, let's move on to another section. I'm just going to, obviously we've put a really nice bit of that black pencil in there, so I just want to push that into the pastel mat now. That sort of neatens up that section. Let's get our punchy black now, because we do want this to be nice and dark because it will set the cheek off that we've just done. So let's kind of comes out here and then looking under her chin. All of this is nice and dark, isn't it? Actually quite stark as well. So getting this really dark underneath her chin will really make her chin stand out. So this It's always a little bit nerve-wracking going right near to the outline in case I've not drawn it right, but so just coming down here and then in here as well. Sorry, Betsy, you're shaking a bit. Okay, so now that we've done that, and because it's an early stage of the pastel mat, we can give it a good scrub. And I don't, you know, have to have a look at the colours that are surrounding it. We've got some greys going on here, so it's absolutely fine to bring some out. Scraping it through there, and then I'm fine with some of it coming here. Of course, when you do kind of really push it into the pastel mat like this, it does sort of lessen its intensity, so you will have to sort of go over it again. So let's get that really nice and dark in there. You can use soft pastel if you want to get this nice and dark. This should be as dark really. The bit under her chin should be as dark as the bit that we did above. Always look at your piece and think, is this the same darkness as this? Is this the same lightness as that? So you're kind of working on the same basis each time. Okay. And that's giving her a really nice look by getting this nice and dark. Giving her a really nice look. And as I say, I don't mind it coming up here in a softer way. I've deliberately not gone over my outline yet, just in case I've got it wrong. Okay, let's push you up a bit. So I think what I'm going to do next is her little beak. Because I'm going to concentrate on her beak next, and then sort of work down and do sort of all her little feathers and the red bit in front. So it got a bit smudgy there actually, so I've just used a putty rubber, and it has just let's just bring her down a bit. Up a bit, I mean, so you can see the beak in all its glory, hopefully. Yeah, so I've just used a putty rubber just to get rid of some of the excess around here, because I want to try and avoid doing a background if possible. And it is great if you know, provided you sort of deal with it straight away. Putty rubber is great for getting the excess pastel out. I do like doing backgrounds, but I think actually she suits not having a background. But we'll see if I make any more mistakes. Right, okay, now then, do we think... I think this little nostril sort of comes to about there, and it's not quite as far as I had it, I think. I don't know that I'm ready to commit just yet, hold on. Let's do... So I'm going to use the Paynes, so Paynes Grey is going to be a great colour for us here. Obviously black. Obviously our two blacks. And then some other different greys and stuff. So we've got the dark sepia, which I'll put in my hand as well. And also this grey that I had before, 726. Plus like a bluey grey, and plus that blue that we had in her eyes. So just, it's literally because that's what I've got there. So it's learning to play with what you've got. Oh, and the 270 is the light one, so I'll leave that there. Right, so I think now we need to have a look at, so obviously we've done the top notch, but the shadow of the top notch sort of comes to here. So let's really get that nice and dark. And it kind of comes here, nice and dark. Okay, let's give that a little scrub in. All the way up there. Okay, yeah, that's making a difference. I don't mind using a bit of, you can use, a bit of the loose pastel that's flying around. Just to sort of create a bit of a base layer. Okay. Let's do some little lines where we think there are lines. So she's got one here, hasn't she? That's there. Got some little lines here. And then we've got some lines here. So I'm just using the black at the moment. You could use a dark grey, black, dark sepia, whatever. This is such early stages. This is not much more than an extension of the line drawing, because quite frankly I don't know if my line drawing's right. So I'm just playing with it really. We've got this bit here. Right. That kind of comes to there, doesn't it? And it sort of flicks off. I think that might be, the angle's a bit wrong there. Never mind, let's just lighten it a bit so it's not quite so obvious. And then, so all I did there was just have a feeling that my line was very, very slightly out. So I've just kind of put a bit of black there, which was wrong, and then I've just covered it with a bit of white, and I've just sort of made it a bit smoky. We can go over it at some stage if we want to. I think there is probably a little bit of black just here anyway. Okay, so I think that that's possibly right. Let's have a look. So the bit where it dips, there's a dippy bit there. Dippy bit. And then a bit of shading here. Just using my black at the moment. We will be transferring to a nice sort of bluey grey, but as I say, until I know that I've got this right, it's right. So let's have a look at the cheek. So the cheek kind of comes up there and like that. Yeah, I think maybe it's sort of, maybe that's, I think that's about right. Maybe up a bit. There we go. And in which case I think this beak does come. And yeah, and then it overhangs. Yeah, I think that's about right. Okay. This is all the fun of freehanding. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at where my lighter sections are. And I'm letting it mix in with the black, I'm not worried. This is still really, really early stages, remember. And then we know that sort of between the little wrinkles there, we've got some little dotty white bits. Okay, starting to come together. So I'm going to use my black. We've got a bit of shading here. And then we've got some here as well. Not to worry about the underneath bit, that's So I'm just using my black now on its side for no reason other than just to get a bit of coverage. Actually, it needs to be darker. So there's like a circle that we've done there. does need to be sort of darker underneath there because otherwise it's going to put me off. And then this bit here, we've done it like it's beak, but it's not actually. It's the fur that belongs to the other side of her, or feathers, sorry, or whatever. Furry bits, the other side of her. So we need to, in order to make that clear, we need to kind of sort of make that a bit lighter, although it won't be that light because that's still sitting underneath the top bit. Let me just work it out for a minute. Let's just do some of those in there. And you can be a bit scrappy with this because, as I say, we've not done, you know, we've still got plenty of pastel mat left to play with. So I might use the Paynes Grey under here because we do want to make it absolutely clear that this bit here sits way behind the other bits. So when I've got the Paynes Grey in my hand, I'm actually just going to give it all a good glazing. So we've got some whites in there, we've got some darks in there, showing roughly where everything is. But the beak as a whole is quite bluey grey, and Paynes Grey is a bluey grey. So I'm just giving it a bit of a glaze so that we've got some pigment there that I can then scrub in. And once I'm absolutely sure that that nostril is in the right place, I'm fairly sure it's okay, and then I'll commit to it and make it super dark. So that is beak. So really pushing it all in. Okay, now we take a step back and we check that everything's where it should be. I'd say it's not far off, but I'd say it's probably a bit more in here, but I'm just going to go for it, you know. And I'm going to commit to this as well, I think. This is with my dark black. This pencil's great, but doesn't give you a very, very fine point, so be prepared to have to sort of swap back to another black. Let's just get some of those in. Where else we've got a bit of shading? So a bit of shading here. And then obviously this section here, this underbeak is darker, isn't it? So let's just add a little bit of darkness there, which will just add a bit of depth. Let's find one of these. So this is a nice clean one because we do want to push that in. So this is an outline plus a base layer, plus a bit of texturizing, and now we are ready to do some final little details on top. We don't need to do too much, to be fair. Sometimes you can overcomplicate it. But I'm just using the light grey blue that we had, so the 722, the one that we sort of used for some of the highlights in her eyes. And just again, look where the sun is hitting her beak. So the sun's hitting her beak around about here. Also got the little wrinkles. They're not lines, they're wrinkles. They're tiny little pockets of skin, so do little dots. Got some little dotty bits around here. Got a nice sort of light there, and that adds to her expression actually there. Nice little light bit there. And in there. Lots of light going around here. I'm just using this light grey at the moment, but we will start to put a few peak highlights in a second as well. And then we know that this part of the beak here is really quite nice and light, apart from the base actually. sort of like the outer, this bit here, slightly darker in tone. So I've just picked up the Paynes Grey there. The bit that's furthest away is slightly darker. And then that kind of comes here. Oh, I've got it. There's a bit of light underneath here as well. So again, I'm just going back to the sort of light bluey grey that we've got. You can generally feel if something's not right. Just get an instinct. If something feels like it's wrong, it probably is. It'll just be a tone somewhere generally. So I've got something there. A little, I'm not going to bother too much with lots of tiny little wrinkles. I think a couple of little bits like that are good. Maybe come in here. Okay, lovely. Now then, this bit under her chin is still bothering me. Needs to be darker. I want it to be really obvious that this is not part of the beak, that this is the underneath fur. So what have I done wrong? It's generally what you need to ask yourself. So let's have a look, make sure I'm seeing. So there's a section here. Just darkening up where I can see that there are some little darks. A couple of little dark bits in here. This is just the 199, just ordinary black, but you know, you could use Paynes Grey as well. Paynes Grey might be quite nice actually. And the section that's a bit lighter, you still have some darker bits in between the lightest sections. So just a couple of little dots of Paynes Grey here and there would be quite nice. And there's sort of like a few like almost like lines on there. It's going to use my cotton bud. I'm just going to sort of press this all in now. I'm quite happy with it being a bit softer. You know, pastel's great because it does look so realistic, even if you do a sort of slightly softer drawing. You know, you look at it from afar and it still looks really, really realistic. You know, it's all an illusion really. And I quite like the softer bits. I think that's what makes it look more like a painting. Okay, so now I can see that I've not got my lightest bit. So there's a nice little light bit here above her nostril. So I'm just using white. Just in here. And then you've got, you know, a few little bits in there. See, I don't very often, I mean, I do use sharp pencils, but I do also quite like them when they're a bit blunt. Because when they're blunter, you get sort of more pigment sort of spread out. Depends, you know, what you're needing when. Couple of little light bits on there. Bits on there. Okay. Might do a little bit of blue, just because I want to. So this is the blue that we put in her eyes, but you know, whatever blue you've used, put a little bit in the beak as well. Just creates a nice little glow. Obviously the Paynes Grey has got lots of blue in it as well. But it's just nice to give it a nice little glaze. And also by having this bit blue and not doing the bit underneath, it makes it more obvious that that's fur. And again, we can kind of just make it look like that. I think that's a bit more. the lighter bit in just above that. So I've just created that, but I'm just going to knock it back again with a paper stump. Not paper stump, I do use paper stumps actually, but yeah, cotton bud. So having said I don't very often have a very sharp pencil, I've just sharpened this because on the very top layers, where you need to be a little bit more precise than I do, just want a couple of little dotty bits around here, and obviously in her little wrinkles there, super cute, really sweet. And a couple of little highlighty bits in there, and then a couple of little bits in try pushing those in. The other thing you can use, I think they're fairly cheap to buy, is a little, it's like a silicone shaper. They work in a similar way to the cotton buds, but you know, cotton buds are fine, and you can also use your finger as well. Obviously, you know, keep them washed and so on. But yeah, this just sort of prods it into place. So whereas, you know, I do like to sort of scrub it in on early layers, these latter layers, you do kind of want things to stay put. So a little shaper like this is quite handy because it doesn't mix and blend too much. It just sort of pushes in, which is very helpful. Now I might need to go over this nostril again. I think I've got the nostril a bit wrong, to be fair. I guess it comes out here. And then up a bit. So only fractions here and there. It does, yeah, that's a bit big there, isn't it now? So what do? If we think that we've got something wrong, we can fix it. Okay, so let's pop under here. Let's do a highlight under here, because there is a really sort of strong line highlight there. So let's do that. That makes the difference, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to go back to this little shaper actually, because I did quite like using that. But as I say, just for top layers, doesn't really kind of mix things around well enough otherwise. That's the business. Right, let's get a few more little highlights just in here. Little light in there, a bit too much. Knock it back. That's it. And then these, I might just use my finger there actually. Just don't want it to lose any of its intensity. There we go. Just using my Paynes Grey just to add a little bit of bone structure here. There's a little bit of shading here which I've missed out. Okay. So I think she's looking all right at the moment. So obviously she's not got any of her little feathers on top yet, but we're going to work down her her body, and we're just going to do this bit And then we're going to save the best till last. Save her little feather hat to the very end. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this red back in. And I am being careful. I did hold my breath as I was doing that because I really don't want it going all over the edges. I'm going to push it in before it can do any damage elsewhere. And obviously I don't mind it going up there because it does naturally. You know, that is, it's in shadow. Mix it in a little bit with the black is fine. Once it's in and it's really sort of ingrained, then hopefully it's not going to go anywhere. Just be careful not to put your hand on it and then transfer it to the rest of the pastel mat. I'm being very tentative here on the outer edge, but we'll fix that with some pastel pencils. Okay, the red's in. Right, so I have washed my hands. Okay, because obviously now we're going to start working in the pastel pencils. A lot of this is going to be covered, or certainly this part of it's going to be covered. I mean, this is probably her neck here, but obviously we're going to be doing the her little feather cap. So I'm just going to use, at the moment I'm just using the 181, the Paynes Grey that we used before, and I'm not doing much more than an extension of the line drawing. Just through here. And then just, that's a little bit darker, that one, so we use the, so looking in line with the bottom of this. Actually you can't see that, can you? Let's just bring that a little bit. So, so the bottom of this red bit and along, there's like a little sort of triangle piece there. Okay, I'm only going to go up to there at the moment anyway. So this is my 199. Let's just get a couple of depthy bits in. So I've got some depth going on here. Got some darker hairs going in here. This is all about me just getting a feel for it, feel for the direction of her feathers. So they don't come down like that, they come out. And they come, so you're not going to worry about that bit because we're going to be doing stuff with that in a minute. Just looking for the general feel. So that's a bit of black, but Paynes Grey is a really good colour for here because it's got that blue in. And when it mixes, so you probably can't see too much difference right now, but when it mixes with some of the white that we're going to put on in a minute, you'll be able to see. You can even do sort of a bit of a base layer because, you know, we've got so much that we can do over the top. I'd say that neck is a bit like that. Okay. nice depthy bit for the shadow. Let's just do that under there. And then some above it. Right, I'm digressing. Let's keep going with what I was doing. Okay. So that's a nice base layer with a couple of blacks, a couple of Paynes Greys. It's just to create a nice solid base for us to then sort of pop our little whites and grey hairs in over the top. Let's push that in. Just want a nice even layer. Don't want to see any sort of bobbling over the surface. Okay, that's all good. Right, now let's start getting some sort of lighter greys in there and some blues. Exactly the same as colours as we had for her eye again. We'll add a nice sort of cohesion to the piece by doing that. So whichever blues and greys you used. So the 722 is quite a nice one. That's the Carbothello. And just literally looking for the direction of her fur, looking to see where, you know, the direction, what's the general feel of it. We've got some that kind of go in here. You know, it's not top layer. I'm just getting a feel. And of course it comes across here. General direction of everything is what's important at this moment. And then where did those go? They kind of went up there. And then kind of come in here. We're starting to add texture, we're starting to add, you know, details and so on. So that was the light grey. We're going to do a bit of Paynes Grey, that slightly darker feel. I'm going to go back to the Paynes Grey just at the back, because obviously we're going to be doing all the feathers over the top, and it's naturally going to create shade towards the back of her head here. So let's just create the shade there and ignore everything else for the moment. Okay, coming out. Okay. Now then, I do like the Faber-Castells for final details. I mean, you can easily get final details with most. You can get finer details with lots of brands, but I do just quite like these because these are quite hard. So I've been able to get it quite nice and sharp, and just do some sort of crisscrossing, just looking really closely at the reference. You know, what can we see? We see some lines going this way, some going this way, and down. Doesn't have to be super detailed, just get the general feel. Make sure I don't put my thumb in all that red, because that will be... You can put glassine. Glassine is a great, just acid-free sort of film that can kind of go over your work while you're working to make sure that you don't smudge it. which would be sensible for me to do. I have got it, just haven't done it. I'm going to use the black now. We just got some darker bits just in this bit here that are quite important. It's the under bits, the lighter hairs on top, and they've just got a bit light. Okay. And then we can kind of come over here. I haven't done any details on the red bit yet. Now actually, looking at the photograph, the red bit actually sits underneath. It's not quite that, it looks like it comes up a bit more. But it's so covered by grey hair, by grey feathers, that you don't realise it. So I've just added a bit more with the pencil, and then I'm going to flick some over. This is just my 270 with the Faber-Castell, so it's not the white. You could do it with the white. You go for little short strokes as well. Look quite good. Okay, and then some come this way as well. Don't undo all your hard work with the depths though. Okay, let's get our shaper now, because we've done a few more layers, and just sort of push it in, and then we'll take a step back and see what else is needed, if anything, on this section. I have to say, we've done what we've done so far remarkably quickly. I hope you're enjoying it. It's great fun. Right, okay, so we're now going to have a step back, have a look at it, see how she looks from afar, and go from there.